All right, and welcome everybody to this week's episode of Your Next Best Step. As well as if you're watching live on LinkedIn, I am super excited to have my friend who I am so grateful that I connected with this year, Dr. Ranelli Williams. I have a quick question before we get started. What kind of doctor are you? I've always wanted to know that.
Yeah, I have a DBA, in Business Administration, in
Ah,
entrepreneurship and leadership.
wow. I don't think I've ever met anybody who has that. That's awesome. I mean, like I have a friend who's a doctor and like a juris doctor, like she's a lawyer, but she's, has a doctor, but I've never heard of somebody that had that designation.
DBA.
Oh, wow. DBA. Interesting. Cause I was like, maybe she's a medical doctor. And I was like, no, maybe she's I'm gonna ask. But thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We are going to have an awesome conversation. And I know from my conversations with you, this is going to be so helpful for people because it's going to be all centered around building your legacy, your wealth legacy, as well as helping you with your finances, helping you with your money, because that is a big thing for everyone really, but I mean particularly small business owners who have gotten hit hard over the past 2 years. And just she's going to share so much of her wisdom and guide us through what we can do to make things better. But Dr. Ranelli, you are a speaker, you're an author. And when I found out how many books you're an author of, I was like, holy mackerel. You are an entrepreneur, you're a financial educator, you're a profit strategist. You are co-founder of ERJ Services with your husband, Eric, correct? Yep.
Yes.
As well as the founder of the Profitable Entrepreneurs Network, which we are going to get to. So, welcome and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Theresa. I know this has been a long time coming, and I'm glad we finally got it on the calendar.
I know both of us had COVID at the same time. And
Yeah, yeah.
I remember we were supposed to do this back in December, I think. And I remember seeing a post on Facebook that you weren't feeling good. And I was like, oh no. And then I found out you had COVID and I was like, I have COVID. So we got to reschedule this. So thank you for joining me. So tell us a little bit about your background because you do have an interesting background. And where you're from and how you came to the United States. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so little girl growing up on the island of Montserrat in the Caribbean. Um, I my father became a baker, right? Here's my father being a pharmacist and decided I'm going to open a bakery. And so he did that, part time while still working, and then eventually moved into full time entrepreneurship. So I saw that at a really early age. As a matter of fact, he opened the bakery when I was probably about 9 or 10.
Mm.
Um, and it's been 40 years, so now you know how old I am. um,
We won't do the math. We won't do the math.
yeah, but so I grew up there, and I found myself, as I was getting a little older in the bakery, gravitating towards, whenever I was helping out, I would always be put to do cashiering, right? And so, I think it's because of my love for numbers and, just being quick with that. And so that was kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship up close and personal. I moved to the United States when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And went to high school for a year. My mom, migrated. She's a single mom, so we migrated here, and went to high school for a year, and then off to college I went. Started out at community college, did my associate degree in business management, quickly learned that I loved accounting And so when I transferred to a 4-year university, Baruch College, I majored in accounting. Then I got my MBA from Baruch as well, and started working, started in the accounting profession. And, if you know me, I'm always striving, I'm always wanting more. Right.
Mm.
And so the position I was in, at the time that I started searching for work, it wasn't satisfying me. And as I started looking for new employment, I realized that a lot of the jobs that drew my attention, you needed to have a CPA license and the MBA, which I already had, and so I decided, you know what, I'm going to halt my search and I'm going to get that CPA license that I didn't, get originally. And so that's what I did. I took a review course. I think it was Becker, I believe. And yeah, once I got the license, then once I got past the exams, the next step was you need auditing experience for, to get the license. And so that took me into public accounting. I worked for Deloitte and Touche for about 3 years. And then from public accounting, I went into internal audit. And that was my last job before being full-time. I stayed about 10 years at that company, and then the business had already started, but I joined my husband in the business in 2015.
So Eric started ERJ Services prior to you joining him.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So we started it as a partnership. I used to help out part-time. We were only a tax firm at that time. So we started the tax business. And then once I became full-time in the business, then we added bookkeeping and then eventually strategic advisory.
So what led you to want to leave corporate audit and your corporate job and then jump into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so here's the path. I always knew I wanted to be a business owner. I didn't know what that looked like, right? Just seeing what my father did planted a seed for me. And so, but I come from the traditional go to school, get a good education, get a good job, retire, whatever with retirement benefits, right? And so that's the path I was following, but that seed was already planted from a really early age, and which is why I did business management, my associate degree, but then loving accounting, I decided to switch to accounting as my major. And so for me, back in 2014, I actually, one of my mentors, she said to me, Ranelli, you're so talented. And I know that there's a lot more, that you can and should be doing. And so she encouraged me to, but you're allowing fear to hold you back. That's one of the things she said. And she said, I want you to teach on FAIR on one of my calls. She used to host this call on Sundays. And I was like, but I accepted. And I did a lot of research on fear. And, then obviously it took me, as a Christian, it took me to, the faith. And, that's the opposite of fear. And so I taught on that. And the response was so great that, people were like, okay, what's next? And I didn't know what was next. But, God just had the path laid out for me, because then I saw someone say, I'm doing a workshop on entrepreneurship. I'm like, entrepreneurship? I've never heard that word. What is that? Right.
Yeah.
And so it was just really about teaching you to become an author, and then, using it as on an entrepreneurial journey. Really. So they just combine the word author and entrepreneur. And I said, it's interesting, low cost. Let me do it, see what it's about. And from there, I wrote my first book, Releasing the Fear and Walking in Faith. right?
Mm.
This was 2014, and at the time I was in my last job, and I remember the company was bought by another company, and I watched colleague after colleague after colleague get let go. And in the back of my mind, my turn was going to come eventually. But I worked for $100 million division. I was the only full-time employee, so I thought, maybe I might be safe, because I'm not such a cost heavy for that division.
Right.
And so, but in November of 2014, I got the call from HR, and I got a message the morning, and I said to my husband, okay, it's my turn now. And so I got on the call, and it was my turn.
Mm.
And that was literally 2 weeks and 2 days after I released that book. And I say, okay, God, I get the message. Release the fear and walk in faith, because I knew I wanted to join my husband eventually, but I was in a 6-figure job, cushy salary, working from home most of the time. And so, but it was time. And so I
Yeah.
got my severance, and I just decided, you know what? I'm not looking back. I'm not looking for a job. This is it. And I just jumped in full time in the business.
Wow. A lot of people think that, because I've had people when I first started my business, my parents, everybody was kind of like, well, maybe you should like work part-time somewhere and start your business. And some people were like, why are you leaving, your corporate job? Because I was a director of marketing and operations. And I was like, there is no safety. I mean, people think there's a safety net in corporate, and there isn't really. So it's like having that faith and taking that leap. I mean, not everybody will do it, but it's there. You're also not like super safe, in corporate America,
Right.
like a lot of people believe.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what was, it's funny because your faith is so strong, and I know that has helped you and has guided you, through this entrepreneurship journey, and has brought you so much success because you have that faith. Even though you don't see the path, the path is there, and as long as you have that faith, you're going to keep going in the right direction. So, and I just thought of this as you were speaking, so I'm going a little bit off my notes, but for people, how do you release the fear and walk in faith? Like, what is the key to that?
It, it's belief. It's belief that there's a higher power that is your source, and that is always with you, right? Because that's what the Bible says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And it also says, fear not, I am with you always, even unto the end, right? And so it's just holding on to that belief that you'll never walk alone. So
Mm,
whatever is happening, there is a path already set out, right?
mhm,
It's just like that saying that says, you may not see the full staircase,
mm.
take the first step anyway, right? And you'll see a little closer, you'll get a little closer to, and just take step by step. A lot of people, they're looking to see the full and we're human, right? So it happens
Yeah,
all the time. It's like, oh my gosh, but then you have to just bring yourself back, sit still enough to remember that, look at the things that has happened in your life in the past, and that the journey that you've been on, and how you've been able to accomplish, and just remember those things that would guide you through the future.
yeah. And I know so many people, like, just like I said, I mean, with everything that's happened in the past 2 years, there is a lot of fear-based decisions, that a lot of business owners make. And that feeling that we're functioning in crisis mode, or we can't do this because we were shut down, or because we don't have enough money coming in, or whatever. So what would you like, what if your clients say that to you, what do you normally say to them when they have that fear?
Yeah, don't panic. Don't panic. So let me give you a quick story that
Oh,
one of my clients this morning, right? I
mhm.
saw her post. So we met about 2 weeks ago. So our next meeting is not, we meet once a month. But I saw an invitation come in on my calendar and I'm like, that is strange. Like, why is she booking a meeting? But, I left it on the calendar anyway. And this morning when I went on Facebook, I saw her post, I had a job interview. I'm like, a job interview. And she said she literally called and canceled the interview because she realized, oh my goodness, it conflicts with my meeting with my accountant. And she knew that she was making the wrong decision anyway, because she knew she didn't want to go back to work, right? She was
Yeah.
just tired of business, right? And we didn't have a meeting. She said she doesn't know how the meeting got booked on my calendar. It was an error. But
Oh,
that
wow.
meeting is what stopped her from going forward with a job interview. And I'm like,
Wow.
God divinely knew that you were going to make that decision, right? And somehow that meeting got on my calendar. So we spoke and we didn't speak about business. We just spoke about that incident. I'm like, wow, look at the timing. And, that was exactly divinely orchestrated. Right.
Wow.
And so, yeah,
That is
that's what I
powerful.
say. Tap into the divine for
Yeah.
sure.
No, absolutely. And we were speaking, before we started recording this. But I believe that, yeah, when you don't listen, the messages and the signs and stuff get louder because God is like, yo, like, listen up. And, it's amazing because I always tell people your accountant and your lawyer are your trusted advisors. So obviously you're a trusted advisor that she saw on your calendar and was like, I can't miss this meeting. But also like there was a divine intervention there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for
Wow.
sure.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I got chills on that. And I'm like and I've had a lot of them happen this past, week or two with those signs and God saying, hey, like I'm here. It's okay. Like keep going down this road.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing. So I'm going to shift slightly.
Mhm.
And let's talk about because, with your client, like she was getting, frustrated and she was tired and had a job interview. And obviously that was the wrong way to go. But what are some of the things that you see with business owners, some of the challenges or the mistakes that they make because maybe they're functioning in fear and making decisions in fear as it relates to their business and their wealth and their, finances?
Yeah, I find that a lot of people, the fear is holding them back from even putting a plan in place, right? They're afraid to look at the numbers. They're afraid to make the investment to, work with an accountant. Um, you know, they are looking at their numbers just for the purposes of taxes as opposed to clarity to make the decisions that they need to make in their business. And so, what I want to just advise the listeners here is that your numbers are that's your wealth of
Mm,
knowledge. Like if you have proper bookkeeping and you have a strategic advisor that's going to go through the numbers with you and help you to decipher what's happening in your business, help you, guide you in making the decisions that you need to make in your business, that is golden.
mm,
That is absolutely golden. And, when you think about, spending money in your business, you have to think about the return on the investment that you're going to get, right? So let's talk about, for example, Facebook ads, for example, right? Some people might be afraid to, oh my gosh, I have to pay someone, with the expertise to do that, plus pay Facebook, for the leads that they're getting in their business. Now, this is if you're a position. So this is not for everyone, right? This
Right.
depends on where you are in your business. But just think about, having to spend $5,000, $6,000, for a launch, for example, with Facebook ads. But what's going to be the return on the investment, right? If you get the right person. Of course, we have to vet who we're working with,
Sure.
right?
Especially when it
Absolutely.
comes to Facebook ads.
Yes, absolutely. Because I've made some mistakes too,
Yeah, so have
right?
I.
And so, with everything, you just have to think, don't operate your business, with fear, right? Just remember that, and I'm going back to to faith again. Just remember that we serve a God of abundance, right? And don't operate out of fear and out of lack. But yes, you're going to be wise, like I said. Yes, you're going to vet who you're going to work with. Yes, you're going to, look at the return on the investment. But, absolutely don't lead with fear, because
Mm,
that's going to hold you back.
yeah, and it'll also lead you in the wrong direction.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what would you say to somebody? Because I have a client that does this, that manages their business solely by what's in their bank account.
Okay. Um, Again, it all depends on, and I would say, that's why it's important to surround yourself with folks who are experienced in certain areas, right? So I like that, the fact that you're checking your bank account
Mhm.
to see what's in there. But you also need to look in the future. Like
Mhm.
one of my coaches, always say, and we have, we share a coach, right?
Mhm.
Always says, operate your business from where you want to be, right? Just like personally, we need to become the person that our business requires, our goals require. As the business owner, you want to, be the leader that, is forward thinking, is not just
Mhm.
thinking for today, but thinking 3, 5, 10 years down the line, what you want your business to look like. And you're going to have to make some decisions in the business that's not just, a today decision, but we're going to be looking down the line. One of the conversations I'm going to be having coming up in the Profitable Entrepreneurs Network is positioning your business for funding,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of people, we tap into our personal resources all the time when it comes to our businesses. So we go and we get an LLC, or and saying that it's a limited liability corporation, but yet still we are using our personal funds,
Yeah.
right, for the business. We go take out a loan personally, right? And so now we're piercing the corporate veil right there.
Right.
So yeah, it's so important to have these conversations that sometimes we may need that source of funding. Sometimes we may need that working capital, right, that we don't have and see in the bank account. And that's what's going to allow our businesses to build and to grow. Of course, we got to do that with wisdom. We got to be good
Right.
stewards of those funds, but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah, and some people, I know clients that have come to me, and because the people that I work with, when they come to me, they're super struggling and either facing closing or selling or not really sure what to do. And I've seen a lot of people who have not managed, and this goes back to the fear versus faith. have not managed their numbers. They haven't even looked at them. They don't, and then when they look at them, they don't really understand what they mean. And they are so leveraged, have so many different loans that now they're like, we don't know what to do because we have so much debt and we're not sure which direction to go. And I think that, again, that comes back to, because when I asked the question, why did you get so many loans? And it comes back to a fear-based decision versus, okay, how can we figure out how to make this work and not, get another, $250,000 loan when we already have two.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had a client that I just refused to, let do that because I already saw, it was a new client, 500,000 in loans and wanting to go take out another 250. And I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right. Let's figure this out. Let's sit down and let's map out, what are your revenue sources? What are you leaving on the table? What are your expenses, right? That you have over and over again that, may not be, doing anything for the business, right? May not be contributing to the growth of your business. And so you have to be able to look at the full picture before just, running and taking that next loan and that next loan. Yeah.
Right.
And by that time you're probably taking them at a higher interest rate because of your because of your debt to equity ratio.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. So if people are struggling and like I said, they're making these decisions based on fear, okay, as it relates to finances in their business, not getting help from a CPA or, a trusted advisor. What are like a few things that they can start doing now to start changing things around?
Yeah. So I like to start out with one of the things I is a plan. You have to put a plan in place, right? So where are you today? Where do you want to go, and how am I going to get there? And I love to start people off with the cash management system that I use in my business and that I help my clients with, and that is the profit first strategy. um
Yep.
because a lot of people feel like, oh, I can't even think profits because of where I am in my business now. But yes, you can.
Mhm.
Right? If you put profit first, that's where it'll be right first. And so as an accountant, we know that the accounting formula is revenue minus expenses equals profit. However, we're not changing any numbers. What if we just flip the formula and that revenue minus profits equal expenses? And so let's make sure that as revenue comes into our business, that we are putting a percentage of that away for profits. So I know the next question will be, Dr. Ranelli, but I'm already, in the red, or I'm already just breaking even. How am I going to make that happen? We are going to look at your expenses, because I can tell you that there is something that we'll
Mm,
be able to cut.
absolutely.
Yeah, there
It's
is
normally the case.
something. So, and if the revenue comes in and you take that percentage that you decide on, right, and put it in a profit account that you decide I'm not going to touch, what's left in the bucket for operating expenses, you're going to have to make it work. And so we need to go through those. And I always suggest putting them in your expenses in three buckets when you're trying to figure out, how do I reduce expenses? Those must haves, right? If I don't have these expenses, I'm not able to run my business. And be careful of that as well. Make sure that you are being true to yourself, right?
Yeah.
In terms of that, like the must haves. Then there's, you know what, I really don't need this, those things that you really don't need to have, you put that in a second bucket. And then the third bucket would be, I do need to have these, but I think I'm paying too much. How can
Mm.
we combine some things? Maybe you have to, like a software here, software there. And if you were to get one software that can take care of,
Yeah.
2-3 things, then you'll be able to reduce cost. Or, you may be able to negotiate insurance, different things, that you can reduce, those expenses. Then we work on those. The ones that we don't need, we get rid of those. And the must-haves, obviously, we keep those.
Right, right. Wow, that's powerful. And I know you actually in the group that we're in together, you did this whole thing on Profit First, which was absolutely amazing. So that definitely is, and it's so helpful for people because people, I mean, number one, a lot of business owners don't pay themselves. Number two, a lot of business owners are solely looking at that top line number and forget about the rest, and you're right. Like there is always something in those expenses. I mean, I had a client one time that kept telling me, we were talking about must have expenses, and they were like, well, I want to go out and I want to make sure that I have really nice shoes all the time because I'm on my feet and stuff. So does that count as a must have? And I'm like, no,
No.
no. So yeah, being honest with yourself as far as, what's really happening in your business.
Yeah. And we're not denying ourselves. There will come a time that you'll be able to, get those nice shoes and, all that stuff. But, when we're trying to sort out the business finances and, get you on a right path, there's some things that just, are not necessary right now.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. Oh, this is such a good conversation. So, all right, I'm going to kind of shift a little bit. Tell me about cuz it's really really important for you. I know in the conversations that we've had about building legacy.
Yeah.
So tell me, what does that mean to you and how do you incorporate that in what you do every day, whether it's with the people in the Profitable Entrepreneurs Network or the people that you're helping in ERJ services? Like what does that mean?
Yeah. So again, I'm going to take you back to my roots, right? I grew up in the church. And so scripture, is what I live by, you know, that's just part of me. And so the scripture that says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children is one of the foundations of our business. Eric and I, we have 2 sons together. And we want to know that we are leaving an inheritance to our children that they can then pass on to their children. And, that's the legacy we want to leave, as well as help as many other families and couples do the same thing, which is why we have decided to work with, family owned businesses and couples who want to, leave that inheritance to their children, who want to build that legacy and be known for, the couple who just, change their family tree, right? Build generational wealth. And so, right now, our sons are not showing much interest. They're young, in the business, but guess what? That doesn't matter. We still want to build a strong business that whether they take it over or they decide that they're going to, sell the business, but we want them to have that option.
Mm.
And so we want to, people who have that strong why and desire, for legacy, for passing something on, for building generational wealth. That's who we want to support, and that's who we're working to support in our business.
And that's so important because so many of us, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, but so many of us have those money mindset blocks. And if you grew up a certain way, like if your family had a lot of debt and your parents worked multiple jobs, and you always, like, a lot of people carry that with them, and they think, well, this is how I grew up. I didn't grow up with money, so I'm never going to have money. And they think it's so important what you're doing because it's breaking that cycle and teaching people how to build generational wealth, which I think is just huge, because not only will it help them, I mean, it'll just help the economy, it'll help, I mean, and it just kind of keeps spreading out. So I love that. I love that concept. And, that was something that, ever since I met you and you talk about legacy, like, because that's a big thing with me too, is leaving a legacy. My best friend passed away last year and she left a legacy. And, I want to carry that forward. And when I hear you talk about it, it's just so amazing, and the work that you're doing. And you mentioned working with couples. Do you want to talk a little bit about that new program you have?
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I have a wide network, and what I've noticed over the past few years is that a lot of couples are getting divorced. Couples, in businesses. Like, I've watched couples who I admired, what they were doing and building together. And then I don't know if it's a pandemic thing. And then I've just watched them, break apart. And so, my husband and I, decided to, we've created a project that we're calling Making Love and Legacy. And, with this project, we want to, just showcase couples who are building businesses together and who are committed to thriving in business as well as thriving in their relationships, right?
Yeah.
Making both a priority and not one over the other.
Mm.
And we're just excited about, the project will, include a book collaboration that we'll do together, a documentary. I have a couple they're marketing geniuses, and they're coming in and, sharing some of that, with the group. And, I believe it's the start of a movement.
Yeah.
Um,
No, absolutely.
it's the start of a movement that we're going to be building and growing together. And so right now we're looking for 20 couples who want to be part of this project. We have a few spots filled already, but we
Mm.
have, some openings. And I can't wait to just see the couples that are going to come together. We're going to learn from each other. We're going to support each other. Um, so yeah, lots of great things there.
So if somebody who's listening to this, because I work with a lot of, and we've talked about this, I do work with a lot of husband and wife, who are in business together. And so if somebody wants to be a part of this project, because you said you had a couple spots open, where would they go to get more information about this?
Yeah, they can go to www.erjservices.com. That's erjservices.com/couples project. And they'll see the details there. If they have questions for me and, want a little more information before committing to, a project like this, they can email me at Dr. Ranelli, that's DRRANELLI at erjservices.com. And we can definitely, have a conversation about it.
Awesome. Awesome. And we will make sure that we include this in the comments below as well as in the show notes so that people can, reach out. Because like I said, we do have a lot of couples that listen to this. I know one in particular who's a client of mine who listens to this podcast religiously. So, we will definitely include that in the show notes. So
Appreciate
this
that.
has been This has been a phenomenal conversation. I mean, there's so much about you that is just so amazing. And there's so many gold nuggets in this conversation and that we've had. I mean, I think the big thing is, and I love how like that, walking in faith, not in fear, and how it just dovetails into everything that you do. It's not just about being a CPA. It's not just about, doing people's taxes and helping them to understand their finances. It's about having the faith to do the things that they need to do to achieve that legacy that they want to build. And I just absolutely love that. So, I have a couple questions, couple fun questions, as we wrap up this episode. Which you don't know about.
Mhm.
So,
I'm getting
no,
a
they're
little
good.
scared
They're
and
good.
nervous, but
They're good. They're good. They're good.
I'm here
So
for it.
my first question is, which book was your favorite that you wrote?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I believe it's that first one. Because here's the thing, right, Theresa, I never even considered writing.
Mhm.
And I felt sort of like Moses when when I felt the tug, right, to do this. Like, that's not my thing. How he was saying, I have a speech impediment. How am I going to go talk on behalf of the Israelites, and what am I going to say to Pharaoh? That's how I felt. Like, I was fighting, like, this is not for me. But then, I was reminded that if I call you to it, I'm going to equip you for it. And the
Mm.
fact that I wrote that book and then 2 weeks and 2 days after that, I lost my job. I knew that God was preparing me, for that. So yeah, now you're teaching, releasing the fear and walking in faith is your turn to walk the journey. Like, release the fear and walk in faith. And that's when I took the plunge, because like I said, I knew I needed to get into full-time entrepreneurship. I knew that that was the call, but to jump and leave that six-figure job, I wasn't doing it. So God did it for me.
Yeah.
Take the leap, take the push. And so yeah, I think that's my
That's your
favorite.
favorite. What has been your biggest challenge as an entrepreneur
um
that you've
it
overcome?
yeah, it's definitely, because I have all these credentials and the experience, it's easy to think, let me just go back. Like, why am I dealing with all this stress? Like, I could go get, that six-figure job, maybe even multiple six figures, and not have to worry about the marketing and all the different stuff. But remember, I have to always remind myself that this is not just about me. This is about legacy. This is about, the clients that I'm going to help, right? This is about the example for my children. This is bigger than me. And so in all honesty, I did go back part-time at one
Mm,
point, right? Because things were tough.
yeah.
Business was not building, the income wasn't coming in like we needed it to. And here are both of us full-time in this business, and we needed to, bills were starting to, get behind. And so I went back, part-time. But here's what happened. My employer wanted to bring me on full-time. He was like,
Oh,
and from the time he said full-time, I was like, I'm out of here.
no way.
This is not happening. So at that point, I immediately knew that, all right, it was time to just really, go full time, go all out, put, all my effort into it. Gave him 2 months notice, and I said, I'm not the right person for this job, and yeah, I there's no turning back at this
Yeah.
point because I know my call.
You just have to go all in. As people used to tell me, you got to burn the boats and just go all in.
Yeah.
I never understood what that meant either. I was like, okay. And my husband had to explain it to me. All right. How did you meet Eric?
Oh my God. So we're from the same island. But I moved to the United States first, but I used to, like go back, on vacation. So I knew him before I left. But in going back and forth, that's how we connected. And yeah.
So do you, I know a lot of people, because my husband and I were married on the island of Nevis, and we've gotten to be friends with a lot of the Nevisians. And I know a lot of, like, they travel from island to island to island, all over the Caribbean. So my question to you is, what's your favorite island?
Wow, that's hard. Montserrat, of course, is
Yeah,
where I'm
of
from.
course.
But in terms of where I've visited, I've been to a lot of islands. I love St. Martin.
Mm,
And I love St. Thomas.
St. Thomas.
So I took some ladies to St. Thomas in 2019. Yeah, it was right before the year before COVID, on a retreat there, and that was special. I really enjoyed
Nice.
that. Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Going to
Last question.
Jamaica this summer. I have
Oh,
been
you
to
are?
Jamaica on a cruise. So I just came off, didn't spend a lot of time on the island just for the day, but hear lots of great things. So I'm looking forward to that.
I've never been to Jamaica, but the water looks amazing. Like the blue
Yeah.
water, like that is my thing, blue water. So yeah, that'll be nice. That'll be really nice.
So let me tell
Um,
you something unique about Montserrat
yeah,
is that we have all black sand beaches except for one.
really.
Yeah. And so growing up, before, I did travel, I always thought this was the norm. I had no idea that this was not normal, black sand beaches, because of the volcano that we have on the
Hmm.
island. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that was a learning experience for me when I traveled and, realized
I did
that,
not know that. I
yeah,
did not know that. We go to a restaurant when we're in Nevis. We go to a restaurant. It's called Golden Rock, and it's really high up on the mountain. And when you look out on a clear day, you can see Montserrat. And I
yeah,
mean, it's really far off in the distance, but
yeah,
I never knew that that they had black. I mean, I know about the volcano, and I know it had erupted not that long
yeah,
ago. But I didn't know that the sand was black.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Wow. Huh. All right. So one more question. What are you most grateful for?
Oh my goodness. So much for life, but I'm so grateful for my children because Eric and I had, we had challenges, getting pregnant,
Mhm.
and so they're miracles. They're
Mm.
miracles, both of them. First one was an IVF baby. A lot of people
Oh,
don't
wow.
know that.
Yeah.
First one was an IVF baby, and then the second one was natural, and we say out of nowhere. Yeah, it was really a shock for us 5 years later that we just had him naturally.
Wow.
So yeah, both miracles.
What are their names again? I love their names. What are their names?
Joran and Javon.
Javon. Sharon and Javon. I know when you had said on one of our calls, I was like, oh, I love those names. But wow, I know. I unfortunately was not able to have children, and I have dogs. But I know so many women and so many of my friends, have struggled like having children. And unfortunately, I was not a candidate for IVF because I had a head injury and I'm high risk for a stroke. So,
Oh,
yeah, so it was kind of like, okay, well, you know what? God wanted me to just be an amazing aunt, an amazing godmother, and I must say so myself, but I am. So, but yeah, I know I mean, your kids, I've seen their pictures and stuff and they look like they're a handful, but that's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, the
So,
older one, he's like, I don't know, like how big this guy's gonna be, but he's 14, 6 feet tall, size 11 shoes.
oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
And
So
he's not done
he's
growing
not
yet.
done. He's not done. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
that's our basketball player. He loves basketball.
Yeah, I was gonna say basketball is gonna be in his future, most
Mhm.
definitely. So, well, this has been amazing. Thank you so, so very much for sharing everything, for sharing your story. I just and thank you for joining me here. I am, as I said, I am so grateful that I've connected with you. And I'm so looking forward to all the amazing things that you have ahead in your business and just everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Glad we connected as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people, before we go, where can people find you? I know you have something coming up on May 23rd. So what is
Yeah.
that?
So yeah, I have the Maximize Your Profits workshop that's starting on May 23rd. That's going to run for 5 days. And we're going to really break down how to put a system in place that's going to support you building a profitable business. Like you said, not just focusing on the revenue side, but let's get that bottom line. Let's get the money in the bank, right? Let's get you paid as a business owner. So we're going to, just talk through that for 5 days. You can go to maximizeyourprofitsnow.com/workshop,
Okay.
and you'll be able to register for that. It's a free workshop.
Awesome.
Um,
Awesome.
People can also connect with me on Facebook in the Profitable Entrepreneurs Network group. And that's where we share, weekly tips and strategies on, again, becoming profitable entrepreneurs. And our website is www.erjservices.com. Eric,
Awesome.
Ranelli, Jaron Services, ERJ. Oh, Jaron and Javon. Oh my goodness. I will get in trouble.
Oh no, we won't tell.
erjservices.com.
Awesome. We will make sure that we include all of that in the show notes and in the comments. And definitely, if you're listening to this podcast, do that workshop on May 23rd, maximize your profits, because going through this with Dr. Ranelli, you're going to learn so much and you're going to be able to start implementing it, putting it in place and implementing it in your business immediately. So definitely make sure that you register for that workshop. I might even register for it myself. So, all right. Well, thank you again for joining me. I so, so appreciate it. And thank you all for listening. Until next week, have a wonderful rest of your week, wonderful rest of your weekend. And, let's all take care of each other a little bit more than we already do. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Ranelli.